Today, we're going to do a deep dive into one of the most incredible encounters in the Gospel of Matthew. It's a powerful story that kicks off with a father's total desperation and ends with a stunning display of authority over life and death itself. Right from the start, we're hit with this absolutely heart-wrenching plea. And I want you to notice the specific words he uses, is even now dead. This isn't a guy asking for his sick daughter to be healed. No, this is a father who believes it's already over, that she's gone. This is a cry of faith from the absolute edge of human hope. So who is this man, and what makes his request so significant? Well, to really get it, we have to understand what he's interrupting. Jesus is right in the middle of a pretty serious theological discussion, and suddenly this moment of pure, raw desperation just breaks right through. Now, we learn from the other Gospels that this man's name is Jairus, and his title, ruler of the synagogue, is so important. This guy was a pillar of the community, a respected religious official. For him to come and publicly worship Jesus, which is an act of just profound submission, well, that was a huge and honestly a pretty risky statement for him to make in front of everyone. Matthew's phrasing, is even now dead, just drives home the absolute crisis of the moment. See, other accounts say she was at the point of death, but Matthew's version suggests that Jairus felt that by the time he even reached Jesus, it was already too late. And look at Jesus' response. There's no hesitation. He just immediately gets up and follows him, honoring the incredible faith behind this desperate plea. So they're on their way, rushing to Jairus' home. You can imagine the tension. But then the story takes this sudden and really crucial detour. And this isn't just some side story. It's a powerful, real-time lesson in faith. And Jairus is forced to just stand by and watch it all happen while his own daughter is at home dying. Pushing through this same crowd is a woman in her own quiet desperation. For 12 long years, she's had this chronic hemorrhage. Now, under Mosaic law, this condition made her ritually unclean, which basically means she was a social outcast, totally isolated, and even barred from worship. Her life was one of complete and utter misery. So she reaches out with this incredible faith just to touch the hem of his garment, and boom, she's healed instantly. And Jesus stops everything, he finds her, and he makes her healing public. He doesn't just restore her body, he restores her place in the community. And all the while, Jairus is watching this. The message for him, in his own agony, couldn't be clearer. Christ's power responds directly to belief, even when things seem totally hopeless. And that delay, that interruption, turns out to be a critical test of that very lesson. Because as they finally get close to the ruler's house, the tension just skyrockets. The worst possible news arrives. This is it. This is the moment. From any human perspective, the situation has gone from critical to impossible. The messengers are basically saying, it's over. Don't waste his time anymore. This is the exact point where Jairus' brand new hope could have been completely crushed by the finality of death. But before that despair can even take root, Jesus immediately shuts it down. He speaks right to Jairus, commanding him to reject fear and just hold on to belief. He completely shifts the focus from the physical reality everyone else sees to the spiritual reality of his own power. So when they finally get to the house, Jesus doesn't just walk into a family's private grief. No, he walks into a public spectacle of death, which was a very common custom in that culture. The scene is just total chaos. You've got hired flute players, the minstrels, and professional mourners making this huge commotion. This loud, performative grief was the expected thing to do, but it's such a stark contrast to the quiet, authoritative peace that Jesus is about to bring into that room. Jesus' first command is one of pure authority. Give place. Get out of the room. And then he makes this absolutely astounding statement that reframes the entire situation. He says she's not dead, she's just sleeping. To him, what we see as the irreversible end is just a temporary state. Of course, to everyone else there, this sounds completely absurd. And what's the reaction from the professional mourners, the people who are, experts in death? They laugh at him. They mock him. They know a dead body when they see one. And their scorn creates this really clear dividing line. On one side, you have worldly perception and experience, and on the other, you have divine power and perspective. So after dismissing all the doubters and all the noise, Jesus goes into the room. He only takes the girl's parents and his inner circle, Peter, James, and John. The stage is now set for one of his most profound miracles. The miracle itself happens with this beautiful, deliberate simplicity. It's really just 4 acts. First, the unbelief is put outside.
Then, he goes in, closing the door on all the world's skepticism. Next, he does this simple, gentle thing. He just takes her by the hand. And finally, life responds to the touch of its creator. The maid arose. And this isn't some hazy, ghostly reappearance. It is a full, complete restoration. Her spirit comes back, she gets up, she walks around. And then, in this wonderfully practical, human touch, Jesus tells them to get her something to eat. This proves she isn't a ghost, she is fully, completely alive. And the fame of this act, as you can imagine, spread like wildfire, cementing the idea that Jesus' authority was absolute, even over death itself. Now, to really grasp how extraordinary this was, you have to realize this is one of only 3 times in the Gospels that we see Jesus raise someone from the dead. The other 2 were the widow's son at 9 and, of course, Lazarus. So this miracle is in the most exclusive category of all his works.
Ultimately, this story really pushes us beyond this one family's incredible joy to ask a much bigger question. The mourners laughed because they saw death as the absolute end. Jesus showed them it was just sleeping. So here's the thought. If the ultimate finality of death is subject to his authority, what does that imply about his power over every lesser fear, every impossible situation that we face in our own life?